Hey everybody, welcome to Porn Free Millennial. This is episode 5. Today I'm going to share with you 3 important tips to stay out of the porn pool. Let's go. Are you sick and tired of porn? If so, you came to the right place. Join me and be porn free. Welcome to the Porn Free Millennial Podcast. Hey everybody, hope you're having a great week so far. Today, we're going to be talking about the porn pool. So, where's the analogy? Well, one thing is, it is the summertime, so I thought, what do people do in the summer? Well, there are pools out there. Typically, when it's hot outside, or you need something to do, a pool is a great option. But today we're going to talk about the porn pool. This pool might seem like a great option to get some relief, but it has some unintended consequences. Today we're going to talk about 3 ways to stay out of the porn pool. So, number 1, staying out of the porn pool. Remember, you have a choice. One of the lies we tell ourselves in the heat of the moment when considering diving into the porn pool is that it is inevitable for us to cannonball in and that the water's fine. Hey, everybody else is in the pool, so I should probably jump in too, is typically what we tell ourselves. We have to remember that while a lot of people are swimming in this pool, they are unaware of all the invisible bacteria and germs. This pool looks great on the outside. What could go wrong? But on the inside of this pool, it's not taken care of. It's kind of a cesspool. And when you go in, you're going to be a little bit different coming out. And it's not going to be in the good way. So to combat this idea that you don't have a choice and that it's inevitable to jump in the porn pool, try the mental exercise this week, in the next few days, of saying no to that urge and thinking of an analogy maybe similar to the one I've provided. In order to start the week off right and to finish the week off right, the muscle named no needs some working out and some repetition. I've found that the constant practice of just saying no to porn daily has helped me make significant gains and has built considerable mental strength. It's helped me realize that this pool is not safe. It's not safe at all. It's not safe even to dip my toes in. And logically, I choose to avoid this water at all costs. Now you might say, well, how do I start by saying no? Really, it's just doing the action. It's maybe looking at a situation to typically where you want to jump in this pool and just making the decision to say no. Understanding that the pool you're about to jump into, it's not actually safe to jump into. It's not actually going to provide you that benefit and that relief that you're looking for. It might for maybe the first few minutes, right? But then afterwards, you're going to be out of this pool. You're going to be itching yourself. You're going to be like, what the heck? Is this like a radioactive pool or something? Did I just jump into like a nuclear pool? What's going on? That to me is what the porn pool, I think the after effects of it is. I think it's radioactive in my opinion. And that's why, just practicing the idea and the action of saying no and remembering that you do have a choice. It's not an inevitable thing that you have to jump in this pool. That's really important. So number 1, just remember that you have a choice. So second thing that we're going to talk about is take note of your wins and celebrate them. So let's just say there is a certain instance where you've normally been willing to jump off the diving board into the deep end. Maybe it's when you get no sleep at night, or maybe you're dealing with a stressful situation. Typically in these instances, you're feeling the heat. It's like sweltering heat, and you need some sort of relief. You feel like you need to get in the water and escape the world that is on land. In this water, you feel weightless. You feel like you can swim away from what was just with you on that diving board. Considering my initial example of how this particular porn pool and the hidden illnesses it harbors, the ability to say no at the moment where you want to dive in is a huge win. And it should be celebrated. It should be remembered. When you recognize these moments, you can build momentum and begin breaking your bad habits. And before you know it, you'll be diving in a pool that is well maintained and provides you that relief in a healthy manner. So what I mean by like a healthy pool, I think that's like a healthy habit. So typically I think with porn, we're going in for relief. We're going in to blow off some steam. We're going in to focus, right? We're going into this pool because that's what we've been doing for a while. That's kind of how we've programmed our minds. Hey, I'm feeling stressed out. Hey, I'm feeling bored. Hey, I need to focus before maybe a big meeting or, a test or something, right? Well, I'm going to go look at porn because that's going to take off the heat. That's going to take off, all those negative aspects of my life, and it's going to remove them. But what we fail to realize is that place that we go, it has many negative effects that, why I use the maybe the example of like bacteria or germs is you can't see them. They're not really like in your face. You know that there's something that's wrong. You might feel in your body that something's not right, but you can't really quite see it until you realize that, oh my gosh, this pool is actually like radioactive. It's not safe. This pool should be shut down. I should not be coming here. If I have a family, I should not be bringing my kids here. I wouldn't really recommend this pool to anybody. So the moment that you make that decision and just, maybe think about times where you typically look at porn or go to it. I'd say for me, normally it's like if I'm really tired, if I feel like unmotivated, that's normally when I go to it. So think about like, in your day-to-day, when does that happen? And, use step one. Remember you have a choice, say no. And then step two is when you do say no, just remember that moment. I used to talk to a guy in recovery that had like a calendar, and anytime like he had, a sober day, it'd be like a check mark. But then if he had like a big win, like maybe it was a moment like where he, maybe you started to edge a little bit, maybe you started to click on some things, but you stopped yourself before it really got over the line. You can count that as a win because that's a moment where normally you would have kept going, but you stopped and you realized, hey, like this isn't healthy for me. Once you start doing that more and more, that line that you're going to cross, it's going to get distant and distant away into the distance. And by the time you know it, you're going to just forget about that pool. And you're going to say, hey, that pool never really served me. I've got a lot better things that I can do with my time. So number 2, just to summarize, take note of your wins and celebrate them. So last tip to keep you out of the porn pool is find a way to actually track your sobriety. So I did mention like a calendar, marking down your sober dates. Once you start building your momentum, you start saying no, you start realizing you have a choice. Getting those successful moments and keeping track of it is incredibly important. This could be through an app, this could be on paper, your phone notes, like I said, on your calendar potentially. But you need to be able to track your success. When you track your success, you can begin to understand your patterns better and your tendencies. Ask yourself as you're tracking, what time of day do I go into the porn pool? Why do I go into this pool versus maybe a better pool that's well maintained? We know it's a healthy pool. It's brought us great relief, and there's no after effects that are negative. Maybe like what time of the week do you do this? Is there like a specific day? For me, it used to be like maybe like a Friday night or a Saturday night. I heard on another podcast, Finding Traction, which is a great podcast. I think it was like Sunday nights are like statistically like the heaviest trafficked like porn use. So maybe that's like the stress going into the week, going into Monday. I could venture to guess that that's probably one of the reasons why. It could be, maybe you're still, trying to enjoy the weekend. So you gotta get that last, video in, that last dopamine hit before, you start your work week. But regardless, think about, like, when does this normally happen? One person that, I talk to every day, it's kind of like there used to be like this one specific day it just felt like he was really struggling with. And the neat part about it, in talking, is that day is still something that is talked about, and it's noted as a tough day. But there's been consecutive weeks now where that day has been a successful recovery day, because we're talking about it, we're tracking it, we're realizing that on that day, although it's a tough day, like with work and with other things, you can still have that choice to say no. And once you start realizing, hey, I said no on this day for 3 weeks now, like, that is something that's really important, and that should be celebrated. You should be proud of that. So I think, just to share, ways to track sobriety, a game changer for me was actually starting to track my sobriety through an app. So the app that I use is called I Am Sober. Pretty sure you can do that for Android or Apple. It tracks your sobriety actually down to the second. If I pull up my phone right now, 1 second, I'm at 4 months, 22 hours, 7 minutes, and 19 seconds. So just hit 4 months. I'm really proud that I've hit that. 4 months ago, I was my divorce was finalized. So for me, I'm really kind of rewriting, it's a different chapter of my life. And I think anytime I'm really struggling, and I just want to give up, I want to give in, feel really down, feel like I can't like salvage any kind of emotions. And, in the past, I'd want to use porn to fill that. I take my phone out literally and just look at it and say, man, I didn't think I could get this far with just how I felt 4 months ago. I felt like the worst, felt like the bottom. And some days I still feel like that, some days it still hits me where I feel awful, and I think that's just a part of the process, post-divorce, and there's other things in life as well. I'm sure, everyone can relate to something in their life that, makes you kind of feel down. You think about it, or maybe you're in a stage of life. But just remember, you can still have success. You can still write your story. You can still have positive trajectory in your life, in your recovery. And it starts by just realizing, hey, I can say no. I can be proud of myself for saying no. And I can track this thing, and I can see what patterns, I tend in my tendencies, like when I normally use porn. Other things about this app too that are really cool. You can connect with community members. I believe it is free. I think there's certain things that I think that you have to pay for, but it's kind of off the top of my head. But I think for like a year, it's maybe like $10. It's really not a lot in the grand scheme of things, and I think it's really brought a lot of benefits. And you can also track, like, when you are sober, like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling like clear-headed? Are you feeling like you're in a better mood? You can track that stuff day to day. So if you're into that kind of stuff in an app, that's great. You can also just track it on paper, on your calendar. One important thing that my mentor talked to me about, and he's also the host of the Finding Traction podcast. When I really was struggling, and I think I had a few consecutive days under my belt, he said, hey, put in your calendar right now, 1 month, from your first sober day. I think for me, it was February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. So I started being sober on Valentine's Day. He basically said, hey, from a year from now, so basically Valentine's Day 2024 will be my 1 year anniversary. Put this stuff in your phone, put it ahead of time. And when you put it ahead of time, bring it down to the month. So, hey, when it is July 15th or July 14th next month, that's going to be my 5 month, and so on and so forth. One extra thing that you can do with that is when you hit that month, or maybe you want to do like weeks or a year, put something on paper to celebrate that. So I think for my initial one, my initial 1 month sober from porn was getting a hat. I wanted to get a new hat. Got a new hat. Second month was, I think, getting 2 pairs of shoes. So I did that. That's something that I think you can look forward to, because typically I think when we're going down this hard road of being sober, it's tough. It's not fun, but you can make it more enjoyable by having some goals, having some ways to celebrate your wins. So that'd be my recommendation, is just find a way to track it, and then tie in what I was talking about with number 2 for celebrating and being proud of those moments. Tie it to those milestones. It is like a day-to-day thing. You don't want us to say, hey, I hit a month, I'm good. It's really a lifestyle change, right? And it does take that day-to-day commitment. But at the same time, we should be celebrating milestones. We should be celebrating, hey, like, this is the farthest I've got from porn. Because all seriousness, this is something that is ingrained in our culture, sadly. It's just gotten even more woven into our culture. I know, like, when I first started when I was 10, like, I still remember I had dial-up internet, so I had to work really hard. I remember I was, pixelated stuff, you name it. The ways that I tried to find this stuff was, quite interesting. To compare that to, like, where we're at now with technology, to where a 10-year-old literally could just open up their iPhone and search it, I think that's absolutely crazy. I think it's absolutely devastating. I think it's going to be devastating. I think there's going to be long-term effects in our society, and maybe we can dive into that maybe in a future podcast. But I think, with that all being said, to get a day porn-free is amazing. It's awesome. It is a feat, because it is tough. Especially it's tough like the first few days, the first few weeks. Really until you get to that, I'd say 60 to 90-day mark is when your brain starts to rewire. You start to get that neuroplasticity where you now have a routine. You now have more of a way where your body's like, I actually don't need this. So then it becomes a little bit tougher to go back to porn, which is good. But it does take that really, tough, focus and that tough resolve to get there. But I think these 3 things, remembering you have a choice, taking note of your wins and celebrating them, and finding ways to track your sobriety, I think those are 3 things to really focus on. And I think if you can, in your mind, visualize this pool, visualize yourself standing on the diving board, knowing that this water is not safe. Think about that. Think about that the next time you get those urges, that you're on this diving board. You're about ready to dive in, like you always have. Say no. Say no, I'm not jumping in. And you know what? I'm proud of that. And you know what? I'm going to remember this moment. I'm going to track it. Because I really don't need to come back to this pool. I can go to other pools to get that sense of satisfaction. All right, everybody. That concludes the podcast for today. You can also find me on Substack for weekly tips and articles that are emailed directly to you. Check me out at Porn Free Millennial on Substack to get that content. And I am also on YouTube and TikTok under Porn Free Millennial. Thanks again for listening, and have a fantastic rest of your week. Porn free. Bye, everybody.